The year, 1929. Preparations for the 250th anniversary of the settlement of Trenton, New Jersey were underway. And during that year, the 1929 Trenton Fair was held from September 30th to October 5th. While not a part of the official 250th celebration, it was certainly a part of the history of Trenton that year. The annual rings were held on the half-mile dirt speedway, which was later to become a mile-and-a-half asphalt superspeedway. Billy Arnold from Chicago won Friday's race in number 32. He went on to win the Indianapolis 500 in 1930, the following year. And on Saturday, October 5th, 1929, Bob Robinson from Daytona Beach, Florida, won with record speed in car number 1. The Trenton Evening Times wrote, "The women in the stands shrieked, the men shouted, and the children applauded nervously. With all the daredevil display, there was not one mishap to mar the day, but the audience was bewildered as to how crashes were averted." While our photographer tried to make it appear this young lady was the winner, it would be many years before a woman would be a racer. Here you see some of the Trenton Fair officials and dignitaries enjoying another successful day as they await an exciting Indian show in front of the grandstand. Meanwhile, the McKinley Hospital Cottage on the fairgrounds treated 22 cases Thursday, including J.L. Griffins of Clifton Forge, Pennsylvania, who was bitten by Bozo, a midway monkey of large size. It was the second victim of the animal this week, it having another attendant earlier, but doing no serious damage in either case. The other hospital patients had minor ailments. Even after this fine performance, this dance never did catch on. The Charleston did prevail. And anyway, most of those in the grandstand were anxiously awaiting the popular rodeo competition. And here come the cowboys. There was trick riding on 2 horses, bronc riding, and steer wrestling. There were records set in the steer wrestling event to the delight of the crowd. And there were performances that taxed the adage, if at first you don't succeed, try again. And more trick riding concluded the grandstand show for the 1929 Trenton Fair. Saturday, October 26, 1929. The dedication of Mercer Airport was a fitting way to celebrate the progress of Trenton in its 250 years of continued growth. The day featured air races, stunt flying, and parachute jumping. 4 of the leading aces of aviation of the United States came to Trenton to take an active part in the celebration and dedication of the airport. They included Amelia Earhart, Clarence Chamberlain, Lieutenant Al Williams, and this man arriving now, Lieutenant Jimmy Doolittle. Doolittle's reputation as one of this country's most courageous and daring aviators preceded his arrival. Doolittle and his question-marked biplane had established numerous speed and endurance records around the world. Called the world's greatest pilot, Doolittle was chauffeured around the field as the 30,000 cheered. Although dressed in a business suit, he would soon change to his flying gear for a demonstration of his flying ability. He was warmly greeted by other pilots and local dignitaries. On the side of his plane was proudly displayed in writing his many world records. However, little did anyone realize at this time that 13 years later, in 1942, this man, Lieutenant James Harold Doolittle, would become a World War II hero after leading the United States to its first bombing mission of Japan. This new hangar was constructed on land totaling 208 acres that was purchased in July of 1928 by the Mercer County Board of Chosen Freeholders. The cost was $175,000. If the same project was undertaken 50 years later in 1979, it would cost in the millions of dollars. This flight line and the surrounding land is now the site of the Mountain View Golf Course in West Trenton. Following the aviation meet and airportcation, Jimmy Doolittle was quoted as saying, "Trenton is very fortunate to have such an airport, which is one of the finest I've seen. It has been my pleasure to participate." Dirigibles gracefully floated through the sky. This one belongs to the United States Navy. The featured afternoon commercial air race was marred by a crash that left one aviator seriously injured and another narrowly escaped injury when their planes came together while making a turn. The eventual winner of the 30-mile race was a Trenton aviator, Jack Throp, flying a Waco. Throp, operator of the Throp Flying School out of Mercer Airport, won $500 and a silver cup. Monday, October 28th, was Civic Day, with a special ceremony in the Armory in the morning and a parade of marching city employees, civic, welfare, and fraternal organizations throughout the afternoon. The opening day ceremonies that preceded the Civic Day Parade were filled with nostalgia as Civil War veterans gathered on the City Hall steps to pose for this picture. And then the parade, led by Trenton's Police Chief, William P. Walter. Horseback, the parade's Grand Marshal, J. Fred Margaret, and there were shiny new cars containing dignitaries and community leaders. This was the first of the week's parades in connection with the commemoration of Trenton's settlement 250 years ago. Starting at North Clinton Avenue and Perry Street, the parade moved along Perry to Warren Street, then continued to Hanover, to Calhoun, and made the right onto State Street. The marching organizations included all Masonic bodies, Shriners, Sons of Veterans, Independent Order of Oddfellows, Knights of Pythias, Loyal Order of Moose, Patriotic Sons of America, Woodsmen of the World, Sons and Daughters of Liberty, Veterans of Foreign Wars, and all uniformed lodges and societies among the Hungarians, Italians, Polish, Germans, Ukrainians, Czechoslovaks, and other racial groups. Tuesday, October 29th, Educational Day, touched the greatest number of citizens. This day was considered the greatest and most impressive of the celebration week because of the number of marching participants. Hardly a family will not have someone marching in this parade. The 250th anniversary program, where information was written regarding the more than 20,000 school children that took part in the Educational Day ceremonies, pointed out the hope that a goodly number will be here to witness the 300th anniversary in 1979. Accompanying the marching school bands was the biggest and best-known band in this area, Winkler's Band, featuring hundreds of professional musicians. The city's public schools entered 4 bands, the Trenton High School Band and junior high schools 1, 3, and 4, 1 band each. 27 bands were in the marching line in each unit. Between the bands numbered, in most cases, about 1,000 marchers. The school children came from every public, private, and parochial school within the city, and the schools of Ewing, Hamilton, and Lawrence Townships. The Trenton Teachers College, Ryder College, and Hombach's School also had their students in line. The character of the parade of school children is one of color, with all the various school colors represented and the different costumes adopted by the individual schools. The parochial schools portrayed the Trenton of yesterday for the colonial contribution to the Trenton of today, 1929. According to the Trenton Times, the crowds were rewarded with the prettiest spectacle thus far in the celebration. The entire parade was so packed with spectators, it was impossible to pass at certain advantageous points. And at State and Broad Streets, the jam was so thick that the crowd was immobile, with men, women, and children converging from all four corners into the street. The police cleared the way only with difficulty, according to the Trenton Times. The real impression of Educational Day was that the future of the city is in the hands of this generation. Wednesday, October 30th, was Historic Day, featuring a colorful pageant parade with floats that depicted the political, racial, and industrial history of Trenton. The Historical Society scheduled a banquet in the evening at the Stacy Trent Hotel with foreign diplomats representing 12 nations in attendance. There were 3 speakers during the evening: Morgan F. Larson, governor of New Jersey, E.C. Stokes, the ex-governor of New Jersey, and Joseph Freelandhausen, former United States Senator from New Jersey. In the afternoon, the parade was held, and the personnel who participated in the historical pageant parade included some 500 persons, men and women on colorfully decorated floats or in the procession. The floats depicted Revolutionary War scenes of George Washington and his battles in and around Trenton, including Washington crossing the Delaware. A float showing the exact model of the first State House. The first steamboat by inventor John Fitch. An ancient hand-drawn fire engine with marching firemen dressed in familiar red shirts and 18th century headgear. The American Legion float and marchers representing Trenton's military contribution to World War I. Trenton, the city that leads the world in pottery manufacturing. Industry was well represented with iron and steel, rubber, and linoleum. Bands playing march music preceded each division. All floats in the parade were horse-drawn. In all, there were 50 floats depicting Trenton's past, present, and future. Trenton's Police Chief William Walter appealed to everyone who drives into downtown Trenton to work to leave their car at home so that the many visitors from outside of Trenton could have a place to park. He said, "We want visitors to go home with a fine impression, not only of the celebration, but with satisfaction at the arrangements for their comfort." The historical pageant parade covered a distance of approximately 4 miles. Saturday, November 2nd, Firemen's and Naval Day. The day featured a giant firemen's parade and a speedboat regatta on the Delaware. Volunteer firefighters from every county in the state took part in the Firemen's Parade. 2,500 firemen marched through the streets of Trenton. Prizes were offered to the competing units. In many ways, this parade paid tribute to the Trenton Volunteer Fire Company, reputed to be the oldest in the United States. Called the Union Fire Company, it was organized in 1747. The ancient hand engine and hose cart was drawn in the parade by a company of men belonging to the present city fire department, dressed in ancient headgear. Hundreds of ladies representing the various auxiliaries marched along in gay, colorful costumes. Plenty of band music to keep the foot patting. marcher band from all over the state. Yes, they came from all sections of the state, with their uniforms in perfect condition and their fire trucks glistening and shining. Since the day that the fire company was first organized, the history of volunteer firefighting has been an heroic one. Public-spirited citizens bound together in the common cause to guard property against the ravages of the fire demon have struggled, often through great financial barriers, to keep their organizations intact. For 2 hours, thousands of New Jersey and Pennsylvania volunteer firefighting forces streamed past the reviewing stand and were cheered to an echo by the massed crowds which lined the parade route. From the reviewing stand, Chief Jeremiah McGill, head of Trenton's department, was greatly enthused over the parade and the display of apparatus and firefighters. He said, "I've never seen a finer exhibit. I was spellbound. I never grew tired of watching." Chief Ross B. Davis of Philadelphia said, "It's a tribute to the entire state." The 250th anniversary celebration of Trenton was a huge success. The many weeks and months of planning and organizing this project in 1929 required the hard work and complete cooperation of literally thousands of individuals. In 1929, Trenton stands as one of New Jersey's flourishing and important municipalities. Its achievements are considerable, and its record is one that awakens a pride and affection within every man, woman, and child for their city. This film was made possible by funds of the Free Public Library of the City of Trenton.